Welcome again. This is actually take 2 of guy sitting in the trees talking to himself. I did one yesterday. I looked terrible, and I put some tape over top of the speaker instead of the microphone. So it was windy yesterday. I don't know if this is going to work either. But it was windy yesterday, so the wind noise was highly annoying. So anyway, that one went in the garbage can. This is number 2. Let's see how this goes. Anyway, just in lieu of finding a stream where I'm going to go sit by a stream and ladder away at a camera or something. Mosquitoes out here today too. Just wanted to do a change of pace here in terms of video. I need the environment, I think. The surroundings here. Much better, less antiseptic than a desk and staring at the computer camera, that ready to roll. Drive me nutty. So anyway, this is really about nothing. It's a test run. Try these out and see. A lot of stuff going on these days, more so than normal. Whatever normal may be. We've got the continuing creature from COVID, SARS-CoV, which is really turning out, well, many knew in the first place it's a nothing burger. It still is a nothing burger. And its empirical data is now starting to come out confirming that it's a nothing burger, and confirming that government's way overreacted for whatever reason. They screwed it up, and they're still screwing it up here in Ontario. Douglas Ford and the boys in Queen's Park are currently screwing things all up completely still. It's interesting, he's dodging all the questions on long-term care, right? Because you're the ones who are screwing around with it in the first place, and that's where most of the fatalities have happened in Ontario, actually in Canada in general. So of course he's going to dodge all those questions. He did the other day in the question period. He dodged 9 questions on long-term care, answered 1 on drive-in movies. So please don't fall for Ford and Trudeau, for that matter. Neither of them. They're just actors. That's all they're doing. They're acting. Trudeau with his 20-second pause there when asked, you know what? I would have fired a lot of the people running my show if they hadn't prepped me for that question. Of course that question was going to be asked. Come on. Given all of the history we've had so far with Trump and all the stuff going on between him and Canada, of course that question was going to be asked. You mean to tell me that that was thinking about the answer for 20 seconds? It was called theater. It's called acting theater. Ford's no different. You just notice the way he suddenly changed. I mean, the guy's been a buffoon since he came onto the public scene, and then suddenly we have this, talking in the hushed tones and hands there, bringing you all in together with me as the premier, and God bless Ontario. But it's just a bunch of garbage, man. All he's got is its script writer and an acting coach. Don't fall for it, folks. You're being had. So anyway, enough of that. We also have stuff going on in the States, which, interestingly enough, could be a TSN turning point. Do I have to trademark that? Sorry, TSN. TSN turning point? I don't know. There's an awful lot of things going on. There's an awful lot of shenanigans that often go on. There's always some muddling around and mucking around. And usually it's the government gang that's involved in it. And this is the same that's happening down there. So, it's nice out here. I think next time I do this, I'm going to have a beverage too. Make things easier. It'd be unfortunate for anybody watching this though, because I'll babble on even more than I normally babble on. Anyway, hopefully this video worked. I hope you're all having a great day. Hope you're getting ready to enjoy a summer, despite what governmental creatures would want you to do, which is stay at home and cower in fear. That's what I say to every single one of them. And go on and beat it. I never once cowered in fear here. I'm not buying anything. I'm not buying anything they say. I don't care. Get out of my life. Leave me alone. And we should all be saying the exact same thing. Get out of our lives. Leave us alone. You're a bunch of scumbags. Sound a bit bitter? Maybe. I'm just getting angrier and angrier at this shenanigans. I'm getting angry at the acquiescence of folks just bend over backwards, and it really irritates me how so many people will take on board and accept things they're just told to them by a talking head on TV that they've never met in their entire lives, and yet take that stuff as truth gospel. And then when the facts are shown to show the opposite or something different, it's completely ignored. So facts completely ignored. Talking heads on TV are accepted as, come on. You really got to remember critical thinking here. Anyway, there's lots to talk about. I hope you enjoy me. Enjoy me. That's not what I meant to say. I hope you will join me in the future as I try to do more of these. As I said at the beginning there, I'm going to try to find a nice stream spot which is a little more quiet. Maybe do this in the morning with a walk. and you'd sit and chat and whatnot, have to deal with this microphone thing because this may not even sound good because I've taken all over my microphone. Anyway, have a great day. So finally made it back. It's been a week or two here now. Hopefully I can get a bit of video in here. There's a mosquito city, so I'm not sure how long I'll be able to stay around here between that and the hammering going on in the background. Anyway, it's just a nice spot to, well, babble away by the babbling brook. Seems to fit perfectly. Although I have to resist all the temptation to move those rocks. I'm one of those compulsive water clear outer people. Anyway, gorgeous day out today. And yeah, I just want to ramble on about nothing and everything. Boy, we got a lot on the go. There's a lot we really have to be concerned about, but it's not, you know, so much just this virus business and, you know, the economic fallout, which is yet to befall us. It's the whole big picture. You know, there's a lot of, what are fingers in the pie, pots in the stew? No. Spoons in the broth. Yeah, pick one. Make one up. There's a lot of people trying to do a lot of nasty things. If we're not paying attention, it's going to be swept out right from underneath us. You know, the time for burying our head in the sand, I think I mentioned this before, is long gone. We need to really start paying attention, but you know, it's too doomy and gloomy, dealing with it all the time. I want to get back on track with you know, kind of looking at changing our world. So anybody who's been following my site and my blatherings and ramblings, I'm a Austrian economic fan, Rothbard version of libertarianism fan, and the biggest fan of all. Well, it's equal, but it's just as important. I guess we'll call it a triumvirate. Isn't that what no, what do you call it? Oh, a pentaveret. No, that was from Mike Myers' movie. Anyway, it's the monetary system, the change in the monetary system. You basically have to scrap the whole thing and get back to a sound money, not the fiat crap that we got now where they can just print it up at will. Keyboard or paper, doesn't make any difference. But anyway, in that world where we won't have a government, you don't need one. You can govern yourself. We just need a system of conflict resolution and restitution. And so that includes criminality. And the idea is it's private property. Anyway, I don't want to go on the whole big deal. It's you can get it on my website there, and it explains you know, basically the idea of private property rights, and how they would benefit, well, basically everybody. But I want to look at education. I tried to write up a thingy on the education system, but it just started to get to be too long. It turned out to be, I think, better in a speaking environment. Or the written word. No. You know what, I gotta go back to bed. Just hike down here. Forgot to have breakfast before I went. I've only had one coffee, so that explains a few things. Brain's a little numb. It's number than it normally is. So the education system is no good. It doesn't work. Clearly we see anecdotal stuff, but think of it even from a philosophical perspective. Education is the thing that tells us, or the mechanism or the device that tells us that we are unique. Although we share a lot of properties with each other in terms of how we're made and how we're built and things we do, so on and so forth, we are unique individuals. No one size does not fit all. It just doesn't. This is science, and this is what an education system tells us. But then the same education system also tells us that one size does fit all. Everybody fits a standardized education model. Well, this is ridiculous. It's, again, the same thing that's going on with this COVID business, this cognitive dissonance. You can't have both sides of that coin. Your brain starts to get mucky, and the people that push it are, you know, relying on your brain getting mucky. You can't make a decision. We've got two opposing views or two opposing, you know, realities trying to fight their way through. It doesn't work. Cognitive dissonance is a crazy thing. You got to avoid it if you can. So the education system is a fail. The system, not education, the system. The idea of a system is a fail. But we can deliver it, and it has been done in the past, but we certainly can deliver it in the private sector. And here's how something would work. I mean, there's 1,000 ways to do things, and you know, everything I say is not necessarily the way things are going to go. The market will decide. A free market will decide. But here's just one example, and just to kind of get your brain thinking. So let's say we scrap our education system. Now we have no government either, which means, generally speaking, you can speak for Canada, but I'm sure it's similar in many other nations, you would have basically twice as much disposable income because you don't have these lecherous parasites at every level taking all your money and giving you barely anything in return. So you then decide where you want to go and what you want to spend your cash on. So as a parent, you're going to want to make sure that your child has the best possible education. You want to know the world, but do you need to know about proving triangles congruent, or working with imaginary numbers, or the history of Bob's winery back in the 1720s when they were fighting? I mean, on and on is all this ridiculous stuff. And it's taught in a manner that is one size fit all, but it doesn't work. So let's just say we've got a free market, and we have a teacher who specializes in what were primary grades. I want to get away from grades because that is a systemic thing. We're looking at age groups and, maturity in an age group, and, what sort of skill sets and what sort of levels of development a child has during certain levels. So you would go, generally speaking, with an age group and say, from your 0s to 5s and your 6s to 10s and, whatever would work out. I don't know really the science behind that, but it would be something along those lines. So getting away from the idea of the grade and thinking more in terms of age. So we would have our individual hang the shingle out and would say, I specialize in teaching children from 5 to 10. I'm a primary specialist. And I specialize in either everything or maybe a particular group. I specialize in math. Or I specialize in language. Let's pick those two because they're kind of important. Generally speaking, from an education's perspective, we do need to know that THE spells that. We do need to know that 2 + 2 = 4. It's part of our communication. It's part of learning how to think, like thinking in your head. You have to be able to learn how to think, not what to think, but how to think. And we have to be able to communicate with each other. Thinking gets very tricky, and so does growth, because you can't share ideas if you can't communicate. And that means you have to do everything on your own. Every wheel has to be reinvented a million bazillion times, and that's just silly. So we want to be able to communicate. So those are the two. And math, of course, is very important because it's a kind of a universal language that's uncorruptible to a certain degree. So this particular individual sets that out. So now we have folks coming in. They're looking for their children to get educated. And they're thinking, well, my child needs a basic general, because they really don't know what they're doing. I watch them at home. They just kind of play at everything. So they don't really know. Well, then the person that's the general, it's almost like a general arts of kindergarten. It's not the discovery stuff that they do now per se. In an idea, it would be, but it's not to the extent which kids are let to run amok. The idea is that you would have a professional on a smaller group. And again, in this area, you could do it in large groups, but again, your choice. And if your child works better in a small group, that's great. If your child learns in a large group, then so be it. That would be an option too. Anybody that's going to see a potential to make money, because, our educators then would also become entrepreneurs. And that's not a dirty word, and neither is capitalism. Despite what people are going to try to tell you, those words are critical in our function society, and we'll get into those in different rambles. But what we'd end up with, kids coming in, and away they go, and they would pick and choose. The parent would pick and choose where they want to go and how they want to do it. Now, I want to quickly relay a story here because it is pertinent. Back in the days when I was still in the kitchens, I have always maintained or tried to anyway, maintain a partnership with health department. Again, I'm a professional. It is in my best interest not to poison people and to kill people, so I will do what I can to make sure. You're my guest. You're giving up your time and your money to come and spend time in my establishment, and generally speaking, I was a kitchen guy, so you're eating my food. So I want to make sure I'm going to give you the best possible experience. A, my paycheck depends on it. B, that's what I do. I'm a customer service person. I've been customer service for all my life. And so that's what I do. And so that's just part of my thing. But anyway, we do have the health system. So you can work in a partnership. It doesn't have to be an us versus them like so many were. So I've always maintained that. So in one of the places I was at, and this is now in the age of social media, talking to a new health inspector that was coming in, and said, we got talking about in Toronto was where I spent a lot of time as well, and you put those stickers. I mean, they're in other municipalities too, but Toronto was where I saw them. The pictures you put in the window, the pieces of paper, colored paper, and you put in the window, green, yellow, or red, based on an inspection report. And I got talking about those things because they were kind of new, spreading out from Toronto, but they weren't always there. So he said, yeah, it's interesting. I don't really need those anymore because social media will do what I can't do with those forms. I asked him what he meant by that. So, well, here was an example. He was at a place recently where someone was served a sandwich that was moldy bottom bread. And he said, you know what, I would wager that wait staff or server staff, by the time they'd set that down and gotten back to pick up their next set of table, that person had Facebooked right out their sandwich with a picture, and complaining about this, that, and the sandwich and the mold and all that kind of stuff. Where you are, what the picture is. He says social media will do more damage and more praise, but more damage than I can do with any of these reports. And so to take that example and go back to the education system, this same kind of thing. I'm just picking social media as we have it now, but there are a million ways that this can be done. It's just these are commonplace ones. But it would be, two parents sitting at a Timmy's having a coffee and say, yeah, my 7-year-old goes to, teacher such and such or educator such and such. Yeah, they're reading at a 10-year-old level or something along those lines. So the second parent would look at them and go, well, you know what, our kids have spent a lot of time together. There's no real difference in terms of development between the two of them. They're, basically on the same path. Why is my child only reading at a 7-year-old level instead of a 10? And we're both the same age. Well, potentially it's the teacher that's the problem. At which point you may take your kid out and you speak with your money and take them over to the other place where you're going to get value for your dollar, but your kid is also going to get a better education. Now you can see this starting to happen, and again, I stress this on my website, and I really struggle to articulate it. One of these days, perhaps when I'm in the grave, maybe I'll put it on my gravestone. But the idea is we cannot just change everything tomorrow and expect the good to happen, because we've been conditioned over centuries to be the way we are. Our environmental conditioning has done all this. So when we say, well, we're going to do this, but people are going to react that way, yes, they would right now. But given some time, people's behavior will change. Their attitudes will change. The way they view things will change. And so when we're talking about something like an education system or a free market education system, of course there will be no overnight problems. And anybody who wants to poo-poo that, knock yourself out. You can have your education system. In a libertarian world, you can have whatever you want. Just don't try to drag me into your stuff. I'll do what I want and what I think is best for my children. So therefore, we now have a kid who is excelling. In a school, we also have a built-in mechanism to get rid of the deadweight teachers. And people that don't know me, I have a long history. I'm not a teacher, but I have a long history directly connected to education system and teachers, almost my entire life. And so I'm well aware of deadwood teachers. They're in anything. It's not just education. It's all everywhere. But we're talking about education now. And so they're the ones that are there for the summer holidays. They're the ones that, in Ontario we have this stupid EQAO thing, and they're the ones that just teach the EQAO, make it nice and easy, and then I'm done, and I don't have to worry about stuff. They're the ones that are lazy ones. They're the ones that, don't care about the kids, and if you give me any grief, I just throw you out in the hallway. Those kind of things. But they would not be able to exist in a free market because you would take your money out. They would not have a way to return. They wouldn't be able to make any money because they wouldn't have any customers. That's what it would boil down to. So now we take this one step further, and our initial example educator would then say, okay, you know what, I am math, so let's go back and we'll just say that they're a math specialist, and so I specialize in math. However, I would like to be able to provide a service to you so you don't have to run your kid all over town to get educated. So I have a colleague next door who specializes in language, and we'll work out a deal, where we can get 2 packages for the price of 1 or something. No, I wouldn't say 2 for the price of 1, but you get a discount, let's put it that way. And then once your child is here, they can spend an hour or 2 or 3 with me, depending on whatever it's set up to be. Then they go next door and spend an hour or 2 and learn the language there, and so on and so forth. And that can be extended out to where? Now you may be thinking, well, now we're just building a school. Well, potentially we are. It just happens to be at a strip mall. But really, the teachers then become independent contractors, and they are answerable to you directly and to your wallet. Somebody's here. Something just splashed huge in the pond down there, but I thought I was the only one out here. Maybe call the white coats now because there's some guy standing there sitting down by the tree talking to himself. That would be me. So anyway, yeah, you would have this extending out, but they would become independent contractors. And they would not be a curriculum. You would teach to what the market is. You would teach to what the parents are, because you're just going to roll with that market. If you find yourself running out of students, then maybe it's time to adjust. Again, all of the things you would do in a regular business. You adjust to the market. As long as the market is unhampered and free, then you have the ability to adjust to it. And I'm just looking around here to see if there's somebody here, because somebody threw a great big rock or splash, or maybe it was a shark. I don't know. Those freshwater sharks, land shark. Yeah, so, it would work. I have no doubt about it. And we see it in other marketplaces. We see how the market will work itself out, and supply and demand. And the thing is, we talk about votes and voting. You get a chance to vote every day. Every time you pull your wallet out, you get a chance to vote by spending or not spending, and choosing or not choosing. And so you're making your voice heard. You will not get it ever heard in voting. In fact, if voting really meant anything, it would be illegal. Seriously. I mean, the powers that be would not allow people to vote if it really had a ability to kick them out and to get them out of office. They do whatever they possibly can to do so. And then, of course, the ones that have been in office get perks and stuff on the way out from the other people that are already in there. It's just a big racket. But I don't want to talk about government now. Give me gas in this nice, peaceful spot. So yeah, there's a simple little example. But start to think about this. Start to think about, you don't need the curriculum. You don't need any of this stuff. Now, the other thing I want to talk about too is how kids get lost in this one-size-fits-all system. And I've experienced this directly, where you've got kids who just are not good at this, or not good at that, or not good at this, but they excel at something. And yet that something not necessarily fit with the curriculum. That something doesn't fit with the way the school system's supposed to go, or what we're doing right now, or your age group, or whatever. Those poor kids are going to get run under. They're going to get lost. The skill set is going to be lost. And of course, they're going to get knuckled down. And in many cases, I'm sure many of them will end up in the clink because this is the way they are. They need to have that outlet. This is their skill set. They get shut down, they get smashed down, and the next thing you know, we have behavioral problems, and then it just starts to manifest itself in other things. So, not to say it's going to happen to every kid, but it's a distinct possibility that it can happen to any and all. So with that type of thing, you would be able to recognize that and say, listen, my kid's really good at such and such and such and such. I'm going to get him or her in there. We're going to learn our THE spells the and our 2 + 2 = 4. And that's it. Once we go from there, let's get them on this other particular thing or that particular thing because they're very good at it. And off they go. And then the children can, you'll have kids educated like they were in the old days, who were ready to go and into the marketplace by 10 and 14. I mean, come on. The other thing is we have a nasty kind of painted picture of capitalism and capitalistic society and how the kids get into and suddenly become slave labor and all of this rigmarole. But that's just hogwash. There is absolutely a room for getting training at the company level because if you're interested in that, then away you go. But the other thing is too, we would have far more people, I am sure, doing their own thing back like they did way back when. That worked quite well. We have some other advantages now that they did not have than back in the day. So I mean, carrying a cart around with an ox and a wagon and stuff was practical for you to be moving from place to place. People generally had to come to you to make it better, and if that couldn't happen, then you were kind of out of business. But we have ways to get around that now. So we can use our modern technology, but to adapt or adopt some of the older styles and put the two together and end up with the best of both worlds. We tend to, throw things in the garbage can and reinvent stuff, and whether it's good or bad, we just kind of reinvent new bad stuff. Well, why don't we just keep the old good stuff? There's nothing wrong with it. It ain't broke, don't fix it. But we take the good stuff, keep it, and sift and ditch all the crap, and then just keep building and building and building. That's how society should go. That's how a civilization should build. Not reinventing the wheel every time. That's, silly. Or ditching stuff and keeping the things that benefit a small group of people at the expense of a large group of people. So now I have to quickly switch off my video here and then start again because I have a 20-minute limit. Okay, so we'll start again within fresh 20 minutes. It's like a meter, but it only records 20 minutes at a shot. I think it automatically starts another one too, but I don't know. I haven't had this camera out for a long time. I could be talking to myself here and get home and there's be nothing on it. Yeah, so anyway, there's opportunity here. There's an opportunity to change, and it's government free. And you know what? I got to quickly say something about government. I'm working hard. I fall into it all the time, but I'm working hard to stop saying government and start saying government group. I slang it by saying government gang when I'm not that happy with it, but government group is really what it is. There is no entity government where anybody, the powers that be, the powers that shouldn't be. They like to talk of it in that manner because then you think of it as some sort of monolithic thing that you can't touch or assail and you have to obey. That's horse crap. That's all just a mental picture they try to paint in your mind. It's a group of people. That's all it is, made up of individuals. There is no government did this or government did that. It's some individual in government did this. It might even be a group of individuals within the group of government that are doing something. But it is government. In period. And so you can see today they use the COVID as an excuse to say, well, this shut down because of COVID. Hell no. It had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with government action. Right? Now the argument may be made, well, they're acting in the best interest. Yeah. Well, let's take a look at the COVID thing and do some research. You'll find out they absolutely were not. And in fact, the exact opposite is the case. These people should be held criminally liable, really, but that's another story. Yeah, government is not a thing. Government is just a group of people. That is it, a group of individuals. And there are individuals making decisions. right? Again, when it says the corporation did this, horse crap. There's some decision maker somewhere that did it, some individual, period, or a group of individuals, but nonetheless, they were still a group of people. There was not an entity called corporation or entity called bank. This is all things just built up to satisfy the needs or the wants or the desires and whims of a few at the expense of the great unwashed masses. Been going on for a long time. All right, we either see a sea change here or I don't know. Anyway, and drifting back off our education idea. But another thing that gets lost in the shuffle, especially in curriculum, and this comes down, I think, to the teacher as well. In fact, a lot of it has to do with the teacher because I know both sides. And I've met and know quite well spectacular teachers who I choose to call educators because that's what they are. They're not just teachers, they're educators. And they take the time to teach and to educate children on how to think, how to learn, how to critically think, how to ask questions, how not to accept it. These are not bad things, these are good things. This is what you need to survive in the world. You need to ask questions. Don't accept things for face value unless you're damn sure that you've got the most facts and done what you can. There's nothing wrong with not having an opinion. In fact, there's everything right with it. Just make a mental note of things. You don't have to have an opinion on everything. Things are rummed down your throat. We'll do this, do that. Well, I'm sorry, I don't have time to worry about this right now, or I don't have time to think about this. I don't have time to critically analyze this. So I'm going to make a note in my head that I have no opinion on this. So if this happens to come up, I will not make any decisions based on, an opinion one way or the other. I have none until we get to the point where you are and do, and then you can make an educated guess. But critical thinking, and the two big stalwarts of that are the understanding cause and effect, and correlation does not imply causation. Knowing those two things, you're well on your way. And they're not hard to get. It's just nice with examples they'll show you, and then you really get it when you see some examples. But there's boatloads of them on the internet webs there. Give you an idea of what they're all about. But critical thinking, this is where our education system fails completely and utterly. Because it does not promote this, and it's left to the teacher, and there are so many teachers that don't. They just preach out of the book, step by step, follow the curriculum. Curriculum becomes a roadmap, and away you go. If you discover things with kids and let them learn items. So, one of the things I've talked about in the past with teachers, myself, anybody that listened, the wall. I go for Paul. I'm actually writing an article about it right now. I'm not a rules person. I don't do rules. Rules are for games. Policies and procedures are where it's at. And I explain in the article there why I see it that way and what I see as advantages of thinking policy and procedure as opposed to rules. But in a classroom, we're often telling kids what and what not to do. They get enough of that at home. We're often telling them then regimented. Again, part of the problem with the school system. It's very militaristic. It very gets you and obey, and regimented and all that kind of rigmarole. But that's, it's the education system itself, not something in a free market. Free market would actually get rid of that, you would think. Or if it wasn't, then you'd move your kid out and go to another place that does get rid of it. That's the beauty of it all. If you don't like what you're seeing or what you're getting for your return of your buck, get them out. And they can go somewhere else. But, you tell them this, and we tell them that, and we tell them this, and we tell them that. But have you ever stopped to think about maybe telling them why you're telling them this? This is where policies and procedures come in. Rules just tend to be a bark and an order. They're almost interchangeable. They are. Their order and rule are interchangeable. When we talk about policies and procedures, we're talking about the why as well. This is why you can't do this. So if you're looking at a circle of kids in the classroom and everybody's talking at once, instead of just barking at them, quiet, we can't all talk at once, you explain to them exactly why you can't. Because you can't make yourself heard. If everybody's talking at once, it turns into a big glob, and nobody gets anywhere, and all we do is end up being messy, or you're frustrated, you learn nothing, and you can do that out in the schoolyard with your kids. You don't need to do that here in the classroom. So we explain to the kids why you put a hand up, or whatever signal you have, or you take turns moving around the circle, or But this is why we do this, not just do it, but why you do it. Suddenly, I think you would probably see far more acceptance of those things because they understand why. They understand the need for it. It's not just somebody else, some other adult, some that are grown up, just barking orders at me, telling me what to do, telling me what not to do. Of course, the interesting part is this doesn't really change as we get older. You get adults barking at other adults what to do and what to say, what to do. Screw that. You know what? As long as you're not committing violence against other people, threatening violence against other people, wrecking their stuff or stealing their stuff, that's all you need. Knock yourself out. Have a nice day. And you do your thing because you know what's best. You know what's best for you and your family. And hopefully, in some cases, knowing what's best is the fact that you accept the fact that you don't know what's best, right? So that's another thing, too. Knowing that and saying, well, I can't teach my kid that. I don't understand it myself. That's why I am knowing what's best for my child is to go to this particular educator or that particular educator, because they do know how to. I don't. See, you're still knowing what's best, but yet you're not saying that I can do it all. That's the point. You don't. But we're in a society where everybody's moving like 100 miles an hour, right? So you can't, there's not a lot of time to stop and think about that. Those roses don't get smelled too often. That has to change as well, but it will all change with the sweep. Anyway, that's another story for another day. We'll stay on the education system, or I'll end up rambling till whatever on 1,000 different things. You know, the other part is interesting too is bullying, because bullying is a manifest of groups of kids in the education system, because that's where we have them. We group kids in those education systems. I would bet you bullying, neighborhood bullying, that's something to deal with at the neighborhood level, not at the school level, so it doesn't really it's not really pertinent here. But bullying at the education would not exist, because in a smaller group like that, you're not going to have the opportunity for that. And quite frankly, we will get to a point where society, it will take some time, again, but society will get to the point where bullies just generally don't exist. You're always going to have things, right? There's always outliers, always. But for the most part, they won't be able to function. They won't be able to exist because, well, they don't need to. They just don't. We're not creating them. We're more stable societies, means more stable family life, means children are raised, better and more respectful of others, and so on and so forth. So bullying would just, essentially disappear. That's my prediction in that sphere. If you end up back in a large group again where it's not being looked after, then you will probably end up bullying again. But those are the type of things that, that bullying is a bigger deal too. Bullying is more than just pushing and shoving, and it really hits people's self-esteem, and that's a big problem, because as they go through life, self-esteem is something that's critical, because it's hard for you to be an independent person when you have self-esteem problems and issues, and if those are generated by somebody else, that's really irritating. Bullying is really a form of violence. It's a form of violence against another person, and it's unacceptable. But, it's another bigger long story. A lot of these things will solve themselves. This is the problem. We look at all these whack-a-mole game going up with all the social problems we have. But if we switch to a more stable society, one where we're thinking a little bit more economically in terms of how people operate, humans, because you are one of them, we start looking at liberty and freedom and independence. We look at personal responsibility and private property, and we get rid of the scumbags government deal that are just lecherous off you. We will have a wholesale sea change. We will. I guarantee it. That one I'd wager a pizza on for sure, even though it's pure speculation. I would bet money, in the form of pizza. I'd bet a pizza on there. Not really a betting person, but I'd bet you a pizza. Or 2, or 10. But that's the way that would roll. When people, yeah. My stuff just fell off the rock too. That's okay. Didn't need that other camera either. Anyway, yeah, there's education. It's introduction. Of course, there's nothing here that could go on and on forever. And of course, there are always, as always, there are outliers in pretty much everything. So this is just kind of an introductory ramble as to some of the possibilities. But the idea is to, just start to think, really. Just start to let your mind go and don't think outside the box, as they say. I know it sounds cliche, but it's truth. We talk about prison of the mind. There's one too that gets talked about too. That's the idea of thinking outside the box. And it's just changing things up. It's letting your mind go. It's not saying that this is the only way. It's accepting that there are other possibilities, even though we've been told there aren't, or we feel there aren't. Let's look at other possibilities. In many cases, they're not for you, and that's fine. That is the whole idea. You choose. But don't force anyone else to follow your same choice. And that's by tacit or intacit. Intacit, untacit, that's not even a word. I need to go to the education system, or free market education, the language part anyway. But yeah, the idea is it's by supporting or agreeing with those that are pushing that and forcing other people to go to their agenda, you are in effect supporting that. So the idea is you choose what you want to do, but you never force or even entertain someone else trying to force other people to do the same thing you are. because that's not right. And quite frankly, we don't have any right to do that. There's nothing on this planet that says one human has an elevation over the other. The Bible is just a belief system. Any religion is just a belief system. There's no concrete evidence whatsoever in any way, shape, or form that says one human is better in terms of a better human person over the other. That means no one has a right to aggress against you in any shape or fashion, and neither do you have to them. You know, the idea of equality is ridiculous. That's we can see that. Just our eyes will tell us they're, you know, definitely equal humans in terms of abilities, in terms of knowledge, in terms of that. But from the basic human being, what it is to be a human, absolutely not. There is no nothing, no proof anywhere that says any one human has a right or an elevation over another. That includes government. So they claim they want to be in charge. No. You know, it's all this stuff. Here's a good line too. You know, government and taxation are the price for civilization, for civilized society. You look around today, boy oh boy, really getting bang for our buck, aren't we? I mean, come on. Anyway, this is coming up on 40 minutes. This is well longer than normal, and I still have to hike back to the ranch. So gorgeous day today. I wanted to get out here today before it gets hot, because we're expecting to get things a little bit warmer in the next few days. So I'll come down here, hang out, and maybe hide in the air conditioning. It's a lot nicer here rambling away than it is sitting in front of a computer screen and got a camera staring me in the faces when I'm not even looking at it. So it makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. I don't like doing these things, talking in the camera, hearing myself or anything like that. It kind of freaks me out. So anyway, I hope you all have a great day. Keep your eyes here open. And again, you know, you can also look too at these exciting times. They're very, very fearful. I can see where things are scary, but you know what? They're exciting. Let's turn some of that fear into anger that we've been led down the garden path and been suppressed and pushed down and told this and that and garbage all these decades and centuries. It's ridiculous. We need to get a little bit pissed off. You get a little bit passionate about change and just reject it all and say, no, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in anything you people have to say. Nothing. I will do my own thing and I'll look after my own deal. And you start thinking like that and start making time, finding time. We have excuses. I know it. I've done it. I know many people that still do. We all do. But trying to find, even if it's an hour a day, just to look around the world, to read some things, to learn some things, to just sit and think about things. Find a creek and sit here and think about things that are not about dinner, or not about the club meeting next week, or not about this, but in terms of our reality and your place in it, and things you've been told, and stuff that you've been told is absolute truth and must be and have to do, and just realize that, well, not necessarily, man. I don't know. Start looking at other possibilities. Start entertaining that there are other possibilities for almost everything in our existence. And let your mind go. Get out of that box. Get out of that prison of the mind. Right? Start extending kindness. You know what? Kindness is simple. It really is. There's a cost to it. There's a cost to everything. There's no free rides in our existence. You need to accept that fact. And so there's a cost to everything. But, you know what? Kindness can be as simple as saying hi to everybody you see on the street. That's it. That's kindness. That's all. Because let me tell you, I try to do it. I try to say hi to every single person I bump into, and let me tell you, the expression on people's faces, some of them are leave me alone, that's fine. But others are quite surprised. You can see that in their face that someone would say hi to them. They're so used to it, especially when you come from places like Toronto where everybody's looking down, or the big cities. I shouldn't just pick on Toronto, but the bigger cities. Yeah, surprise on their face that someone actually took the time just to say a simple hi. But I'll tell you, you can make somebody's day doing that. That I know 100% because I've been told that. Someone who I said hi to, or just stopped to talk to briefly, or even just, did some small talk around a pathway or something, and to make their day. I had a gentleman when I was walking dog, and his day was made every time we saw each other, and he told me that. Just to get a chance to pet the dog and say hi, it just turned his day around. And this is that simple. It is that simple. I mean, you can go all to the ends of the earth with kindness and things like that. It's interesting, too. I read a piece quickly. Notice how I can go on and on and on forever. I read a meme, too, about saying goodbye, and it's just a simple matter of standing at the doorway, continuing to converse for hours after that. That's the idea of saying goodbye. But, see, now I lost my train of thought. Oh, I hate that. You get older, and it goes off to the rails. Train of thought has... you know what that means? It's just time to go. That's what that means. We'll try to pick it up. Actually, once I rewind this video, I'll probably be able to find out where I was going, and I'll pick it up in another one. Have yourself a great day. Enjoy this beautiful, gorgeous weather if you're in Ontario, particularly South Central Ontario. It's going to get a little bit warmer, but that's okay. And, yeah, don't accept anything at face value. Have a great day.